Oh, hi, Mark. So I'm feeling like I'm on a bit of a roll with these shelf by shelves. Um, these are really like fun, quick, easy videos for me to do, and frankly, I just really love bouncing from movie to movie to movie to movie. Sometimes when I'm just focusing on one movie, I do have a bit of a problem like expanding on. That's not a good way of saying it, but I have a problem spending so much time on one movie, and it's to me it's easier and it's more fun to just bounce movie to movie to movie to movie. That being said, I still enjoy recording reviews. It's just not something that I want to do every day, and so I am glad that I've started doing these shelf by shelves again. I stopped there for a little bit, but because I think these are a ton of fun. So anyway, we are on S right now. The last film we talked about, well, the last films we talked about were the Saw films, um, the 7 movie collection of Saw. So, going real boring tonight with some water. I don't drink near enough water. Um, anyway, so we are still on S. We're just gonna pick up right here. This is gonna be a shorter one because this shelf is not as big as the last one. But anyway, Scare B and B. That title is awful. Really is stupid. But I will say this is a decent little movie. This cover art is really dumb, and it is not at all doing justice for what the film actually is. This cover art leads you to believe that you're watching a slasher movie when you pop in Scare B&B. Again, that is such a stupid friggin' title, and I will never get used to saying it. This movie's not a slasher movie. By the way, that guy right there, no one wears an outfit even close to that in the film. No, I don't think anyone even wields an axe in this movie. Let alone does anyone wear a cowboy hat. Um, at least not to my memory, which is really funny because he's on the back too. They were really trying to sell this as a slasher movie, which pisses me off. I always hate when movies try to mislead you in order to get you in the seats. Like there's another movie with Marissa Tomei called The Dark and the Wicked, which you would think that's a horror film. Or is it called The Dark and the Wicked? No, 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 no. It's not The Dark and the Wicked. It's the The Dark and the Wicked. That's that. Dear God, that's that movie. That's the newer ghost sort of movie. No, no, no. It was called Dark Was the Night. That's the Marissa Tomei movie. There's a movie called with Marissa. If I can get my words straight. There's a movie with Marissa Tomei called Dark Was the Night, and it totally advertises itself as like a dark, violent thriller. It's not. This movie is a drama about dealing with grief, and it's a really fantastic movie. But it really pisses me off that they felt that they had to um, lie to us to get us in the seat, especially because when you do that, especially in the case of Dark Was the Night, you are misleading people and you're attracting a certain audience, and when that audience doesn't get what they were promised, they're gonna hate your movie. I did not hate the movie. I thought it was a very good movie. Dark Was the Night, that is. But I may be the exception, not the rule on that. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Dark Was the Night, But Scarebnb, it's a revenge film, actually. Scarebnb is, and it's a decent little movie. It's not good, really, by any measure, by any stretch of the imagination. This movie really isn't that good, but it's not terrible, and it's not near as terrible as you would expect a movie called Scarebnb to be. So, there's that, and honestly, there's something to be said for that. The movie called Scarebnb with that crappy cover art that's super misleading isn't as bad as you might think. Scary Stories. I found this at the Dollar Tree, which is really cool. The Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark documentary, obviously. The documentary about the books. I'm really interested to check this out eventually. Wild Eye put it out, which is interesting because I have watched a few Wild Eye films now, and they're garbage. I mean, I'm sorry, but Wild Eye really does put out some trash. But I can't imagine that this is that bad. So, I don't know. I'm definitely still interested to check it out, though. The School, I've sort of seen this film. I'm not entirely sure if I have. I remember the night that I went to watch this movie, I was super tired and I went to sleep right in the middle of the movie. I paused it first, but I did go to sleep right in the middle of the movie to take a nap. And I don't know if I ever finished it, honestly, because I don't think I was into it very much. From what I saw, it wasn't, like, terrible. But, at the moment, I very much so wasn't into the movie. Scream at the Devil. I haven't seen it. It looks... Honestly, it looks pretty bad, but looks can be deceiving, I suppose. Scream at the Devil. Interesting enough. Speaking of interesting enough, Scrawl. Speaking of trash that Wild Eye put out. It is crazy to me that Daisy Ridley was in this movie. The lady who plays Rey in the Star Wars movies, the new Star Wars movies, was in a movie called Scrawl. A micro-budget horror film that Wild Eye put out. That's crazy to me. And yeah, no, it's pretty bad. Matter of fact, it's very bad. But I will say, it's not the worst, and it has an interesting premise. It's just very poorly executed. Screwed. This is a Japanese film. I've never seen it. I do think it looks really interesting, though. I don't know. I think this movie has the potential to be batshit insane Japanese goodness. Seed. This movie, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure is garbage. Especially since it is an Uwe Boll film, who, by all accounts, is a trash director. Unfortunately. Wow. I think I owed like 2 Uwe Boll films too, which is just, that doesn't bode well for my enjoyment of those movies, considering I have heard he's a very bad director. And I'm talking like I watch YouTube videos and people mention Uwe Boll, you know, every once in a while in a YouTube video, and we're talking people who love bad movies. And I'm one of those people that love bad movies, but, you know, they're like, yeah, no, these are genuinely bad movies, would not recommend. So it has me a little nervous. Severance. This isn't in the slasher section there because this movie doesn't work. I actually bought a copy that doesn't work, unfortunately. I bought it at the Dollar Tree, so it was brand new when I bought it. It's just that for whatever reason, it decided to be defective right out of the case. So, unfortunately, that's the way it is. I'm just kind of keeping it in here as a placeholder until I get a new Severance DVD somewhere down the line. I watched part of that film. It seems like it's going to be fun. The Shadow Man, this movie just looks like a Slender Man ripoff. Slender Man being a creepypasta, and if you know me, I don't like creepypastas. I think they're really stupid most of the time. But I will give movies based on creepypastas chances, because movies are my medium. They're what I prefer to pretty much everything else. Anyway, The Shadow Man, it looks like garbage. I probably shouldn't have bought it. Again, I used to have a very strong compulsion to just buy every horror movie in the Dollar Tree, and, well, we see where that's got me. No, I'm sorry, guys, I'm yawning a lot, but anyway, moving on. The Shallows with Blake Lively. This is a really cool movie. Yeah, I really like this one. Very, very tense sort of shark movie thriller. And by the way, this Shark Attack 3-pack, Raiders of the Lost Shark here. This was the movie I was talking about. I think it was last video. It had to have been last video. Where I was referring to a movie where, like, they had CGI'd this shark so poorly that it looked like a cardboard cutout flying by the screen like this. I mean, that's literally what it looked like. That's Raiders of the Lost Shark, and this movie's hysterical. I do recommend seeing this movie if you ever so have the inclination to watch a terrible shark film. However, just know that title is very misleading. It has nothing to do with Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Absolutely nothing at all. No story plot points. Nothing. They just decided to capitalize on the name and make a pun that in the end doesn't really matter, because again, it has nothing to do with that. And then I have not seen Sharkenstein and Shark Exorcist. Something that I will amend eventually. Shark Lake, another one of these dollar store movies. It's got Dolph Lundgren in it, so that's interesting. But you know, it's a shark movie. And if there is one thing that we've learned about me by now, is I will pretty much buy any shitty shark movie. It doesn't matter. Shark Night. This is actually a really entertaining shark movie. I won't go as far as to call it good, but it is a very entertaining shark movie. It's got a lot of very attractive women in it. Of course, in their bathing suits the entire movie, so that's definitely not a bad thing. One thing that this movie's really cool for is that it has multiple different types of sharks. It introduced me to shark breeds that I had no idea existed. Namely the cookie cutter sharks, which are just really cool, and in this movie they're really vicious. But I don't know, that movie's kind of cool. Sharks in Venice. Again, I bought it because of that ridiculous premise. Shaun of the Dead. You know, I'm not as, like, ginormous on this movie as everyone else is. I find it funny, I do. I think it's a perfectly enjoyable movie. I'm not the guy for this movie, I guess. It just isn't, not my movie, necessarily. I do typically prefer more serious zombie movies, and then if not a serious zombie movie, a really, like, cheesy horror comedy sort of feel, not these genuine comedies like Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland. They're both very good movies. I do prefer Zombieland to Shaun of the Dead, but yeah, it's just not my personal thing. Like, if I'm gonna watch a zombie movie, it's gonna be something like Fulci's Zombie, or, you know, Romero's Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. Shout out to Night of the Living Dead. That's my hoodie. This is a pretty dope hoodie, actually. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any pockets, which is a pretty big drawback, but Just decided to show off my hoodie. Um, anyway, moving on. The Shining. I should own this movie on Blu-ray. It's weird, like, out of all movies, The Shining, like, why would I own this on DVD over Blu-ray? I don't know. Probably because it was at Walmart for like $3.74 or $5, one of the two. This is a fantastic movie. Now, I'm pretty sure I mentioned previously, no I didn't, I haven't mentioned this to you guys yet. It was on my Blu-ray collection video. However, that video never made it to you guys because the videos ended up being too long, and I think I actually accidentally deleted part of that video. Anyway, and so that video never made it to you guys. But the thing I will say about The Shining is it is fantastic. However, it's overrated a little. I will say this movie's absolutely fantastic. It deserves a lot of praise. However, well, I don't know that I'd say it's overrated. Maybe I shouldn't say it's overrated. The thing about The Shining is that people seem to... I think it's just mostly how people overestimate how influential The Shining was. You know, a really, really influential movie. You know, and this is kind of the joke that I've always made about The Shining, is that it doesn't matter what top 10 list it's on. It could be the top 10 cars of 1972, and The Shining would be number 1 on that list. It doesn't have to make sense because the people like The Shining, or they want to appear to like The Shining, or something to that nature. That's always kind of been the joke I made about The Shining, and that comes mostly from the fact that this movie seems to be like number 1 on a lot of people's list of most influential horror movies of all time. And when you really look at horror movies over the course of time, The Shining really isn't that influential. I'm sure it did influence a lot of directors, a lot of individuals to go on and make their movies, but a movie, to call something the most influential horror movie of all time. Alright, let's say you think The Shining is the most influential horror film of all time. Well, that negates... Well, it doesn't negate, but it discounts movies like Night of the Living Dead, which basically started an entire genre. Bay of Blood, which basically started an entire genre. Yes, I consider Bay of Blood the first slasher movie of all time. Psycho, which was kind of the, not really the blueprint for the genre, but it kind of paved the way for slasher movies. Then you have Scream, which defined an entire generation. You have Mario Bava's The Girl Who Knew Too Much, which was, I think that was the first Giallo film, which that was like, there were a ton of gialli coming out of Italy in the 70s and the 80s and even a little bit in the 90s. I mean, that was the prime source of like horror movies. And yes, I do consider gialli film horror movies. But then you look at The Shining. What did The Shining really do? Other than, yeah, I'm sure it influenced a lot of individuals. But I can't say that The Shining created a genre. And I understand that you don't have to create a genre to be influential. However, I think to be the most influential horror movie of all time, when you look at The Shining, which I'm sure influenced a lot of individuals, and you do see its mark in cinema today. You do. But to say that because of those things, The Shining is more influential than George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead or Mario Bava's Bay of Blood, I think that's absolutely absurd. So those are my thoughts on The Shining, and people kind of, I think people blow it a little too much, but I do really like The Shining. I think The Shining is absolutely fantastic. I just think people fondle the balls of it a little too much. Anyway, Shocker. This is a fun Wes Craven movie. Yeah, it's just fun. It's nothing like fantastic, but it is fun. I would say outside of Wes Craven's big three, like Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, and Nightmare on Elm Street, I'd say Shocker's probably my favorite outside of those. The Shortcut. This movie's pretty bad. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. It has a pretty stupid twist, which is really what does it for me as far as me not liking it. It just has a pretty stupid twist. Shuttle. This movie looks pretty interesting. I got it from a Dollar Tree. I haven't seen it yet, but it actually does look like it's going to be good. The Signal. Speaking of movies I got from a Dollar Tree, I got this from the Dollar Tree with the slipcover, and the slipcover is lenticular as well, which is pretty neat. But I will say this movie is just a different take on Stephen King's Cell. That's what this movie is. If you've ever read the book Cell, or I guess seen the movie. I've never seen the movie. I've read the book, though. Like, if you've ever done either of those things, you know what The Signal is about. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know if Stephen King wrote Cell first, or if they made The Signal first. But this is very much so. Either this is a Cell ripoff, or Cell was a this ripoff. So, my personal thoughts on it anyway. It's a pretty fun movie, though. It's actually kind of interesting because it's sort of a comedy, which I wasn't really expecting. Well, it's a horror movie, but it's kind of a lighter toned horror movie that can be funny at times. Let's just say that. Signs. This is a really fantastic movie. I know some people aren't a fan of it, but the way everything comes together in the end, I absolutely love it. The whole theme in this movie being, of course, that there are no coincidences, or, kind of it has a very strong theme of religion, and I love the end of this film, where earlier in the film, Mel Gibson was telling his brother Merrill, basically there are two types of people in this world: those who believe that no matter how wild it is, it's just a coincidence, and then there are those people who believe there are no coincidences, and that there is someone up there looking out for them. And of course, Mel Gibson ultimately regains his faith in this movie after he had lost his faith after the tragic death of his wife, through this series of what is either a wild series of coincidences or some form of almost divine intervention. And I think that's really cool. Yeah, Signs is a really cool movie in my opinion. The Silence of the Lambs. Yes, this is on my horror collection. Oddly enough, 7 is not. Well, I have 7 on VHS, so I guess it's not like I have a devoted place for horror VHS. But 7 is not. I don't know why. I have no idea why. If this is, 7 probably should be. I've never seen 7, but it seems kind of similar kind of thematically and otherwise to the Silence of the Lambs. So long story short, I don't know why the Silence of the Lambs is in my horror collection and 7 isn't, but whatever. I like the Silence of the Lambs though. I like it a lot. Silent Hill, in my opinion, this is the best best video game movie ever made. Might be a bit of a bold statement. It might not be though, because video game movies are kind of crap. But I do believe that Silent Hill is the best video game movie ever made, hands down. That's just me. I like Mortal Kombat. I like Resident Evil. I like video game movies. It's just that I happen to think that Silent Hill is the best. Silent House. I guess this is a remake, which I actually didn't know the first time I saw this. But, yeah, Silent House with Elizabeth Olsen. This is a decent, okay-ish movie. It's nothing mind-blowing, and the twist in it, honestly, it's stupid. I'm going to be entirely honest. It's pretty damn stupid, and it's a very cliche twist. And if you're going to have that twist, you really need to execute it perfectly. That movie did not. I don't know. The movie overall is decent-ish, though. Silver Bullet. I've never seen this movie. Sinister. I'm not as huge on this one as everyone else seems to be. I don't know. I've watched this movie all the way through, I think, one time. Oddly enough, I haven't been able to sit down and rewatch Sinister since the first time I watched it. I just, like, I'll sit down and watch it. Like, not too long ago, well, yeah, now I guess it was pretty long ago, but I sat down and I tried to rewatch Sinister, and I got a little bored. Sinister 2. I actually personally like Sinister 2 more than Sinister 1. I know that's really stupid. I recognize Sinister 1 is a much better movie by a lot. I don't even know why I like Sinister 2 better. I just find this movie more rewatchable, which again is super strange. Maybe it's just because the whole movie I'm thinking about how much I'd like to punch this little kid in the face. Especially, he says something to his mother in this movie that really makes me want to punch him in the face. These children are terrible little human beings. The Skeleton Key. This is an interesting movie. It's been a while since I've seen it. Pretty sure I was actually still in high school the last time I saw this. But it's decent. It's decent enough for me to keep in my collection, so I'm sure I'll watch it again someday. Sleepy Hollow. This is a movie that I've only seen a couple of times, but it's not because I never feel like watching Sleepy Hollow. It's actually because I'm trying to save this film for particularly late October. I save it for late October viewing, that way I don't get sick of it, because this is it feels very special to me, as far as I think this is I think this movie has one of the best atmospheres of all time. Like, I think the atmosphere in Sleepy Hollow is just mind-blowing. And of course the visuals, Tim Burton's direction, and Johnny Depp, I think he really suits the character of Ichabod Crane. It's all just a perfect storm to make a Halloween movie, and that's what they did here, and that's why I try to save it for October, late October viewing. And then last and probably least here, we have the movie Slender, which I've never seen. I know nothing about this movie. No, this is not the Slender Man movie. Released in, what was it? 2016 or whatever. I don't know when that stupid movie was released. That movie sucked. But this movie, I'm going to bet, sucks more. I bought it because I honestly, I don't know why I bought it. I find Slender Man as a concept creepy, but in execution, usually he just comes off as mad obnoxious. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this shelf. I'm probably actually just gonna go record the next shelf, like right when I get done here. So I'll catch you guys on the next one.